to the Journey to CEO Success. I'm your co-host, Melissa Saunders, and I'm joined by Patrick Thean, award-winning serial entrepreneur, renowned CEO coach, and a best-selling author recognized by the Wall Street Journal and USA Today. Patrick's latest book, The Journey to CEO Success, is a #1 Amazon bestseller and the inspiration behind this podcast. Patrick, it's great to have you here.
Thank you, Melissa. It's awesome. It's awesome.
And today we're joined by Karen Norheim, a passionate advocate for manufacturing and a second-generation leader of American Crane and Equipment Corp. As CEO, she has built on her father's legacy while shaping a modern culture rooted in the mantra, always lift, never quit. Man, I love that, Karen. And welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Karen, thank you and welcome again to our show. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, this podcast is about helping CEOs find a more joyful journey while they're having a successful life. So both joy and success is what we're doing. But I want to first start by listening a little bit about your company. So please tell us about your company, a company started by your dad and been around 50 years. That's amazing. Tell us about that.
Yes, American Crane and Equipment Corporation, we've been around well over 50 years. We were started back in 1972 by 3 Norwegians, one of which was my father. Fast forward into the early 80s, the company went into financial ruin. My father was a minority shareholder at the time. He managed to take over the company, get control, risked everything in our family,
Wow.
and thus the modern American Crane was
Risk
born.
everything in your fammy. Did I hear that correctly?
Everything. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. It
Yes.
was, the company was gonna cease to exist, had about 40 employees. And like I said, it's probably 82, 83 time period. And my dad had a really interesting history. He's from Norway. He came to the US in his 20s. He never knew his father. Mother died when he was 10 and came to the US seeking the American dream. And that was his moment. That was his crisis turned
Yeah.
into opportunity. And he went for it. And now we're at almost 255 employees and thriving as a business. And we manufacture overhead cranes and hoists used in specialty applications. Our cranes are used to manufacture spacecraft, including the Orion capsule that's going to be going up for the Artemis project soon, and also is used to move spent fuel at nuclear power plants. We work with industries such as aerospace with Boeing and manufacturers. So highly technical, complex machines,
Cool.
really
Cool.
fun, exciting work to do.
We sell stuff to Boeing. How about Blue Origin? Do you sell stuff to Blue Origin too?
Not necessarily, not Blue Origin, but we are down in the Cape working with both the Air Force and also with NASA. So our cranes are used in the same places where the Apollo was put together. And that's the same building that they put the Artemis capsule together as they're getting ready to launch for the mission to the moon, which is so exciting. I could dork out on space. It's like the coolest application of what we're doing.
It's exciting. So let's talk about your journey. So you shared with us that 20 years ago, you were like, how fun is it to work with my dad, etc. How did you come to that conclusion that it would be fun to work with your dad, and what attracted you to this? Or did you always think that, you wanted to be part of this business?
I did not think I wanted to be part of this business. Now, my father was an amazing figure in my life, and so he was an inspiration to me, and I always knew I wanted to possibly be a business owner or be an entrepreneur. But I was off doing my own thing. Worked in a couple different industries before I came here, but my dad recruited me. I had such respect for him and such admiration, and he's like, I really want you to come back and work for me and try out the family business. I said, okay, Dad, I'll give it a go. I negotiated for a little more money than he wanted. And then I said, but if I don't like this, I'm out. I don't know how cool these things called cranes and hoists can be. And I'm not sure if manufacturing is the industry for me. And that was the best decision of my life. I found my passion. I love what I do. Amazing people, amazing products. It's been quite a journey.
So you said you found your passion. So what does that mean? What do you mean by you found your passion at this company?
So what I found is that I love building and working with teams and solving complex problems. I also am really passionate about manufacturing in general. I think it's an exciting thing where, in one space, you're designing something on paper, and then in another space on the other side of a wall, you're actually putting it together. So I think that those are two passions that kind of got combined. And really, if hindsight's so easy to look at this,
Yes.
but if I think early on, I might not have realized it, but I really do love growing a team. And in the role of where I am now as CEO, I always like to say it's like being a gardener, nurturing and creating an environment where awesome people can be awesome, people can thrive. I want, you talk about joy and success, and I truly believe they are the most, important things for us to strive for in our lives. And I want that for my people too. And I think we can have that if we create an environment where people can thrive, can do great work. And as CEO, it's part of my responsibility to work, create, and maintain that. And I like it.
I love what you said about you got to connect the dots only backwards. In fact, Steve Jobs said that in his address at Stanford University. He said, you can't connect the dots looking forwards. You can only connect them looking backwards. And that's why
Mhm.
I thought it was so cool that you found your passion at this company working with your dad. I also love that you said, you negotiated a better salary than your dad wanted to pay, which is great. And secondly, you also shared that, hey, dad, if I didn't like it, I move on. So that tells me that you're thinking, okay, I can try, I can experiment. And I got two wonderful daughters. Actually, I asked you about Blue Origin because I got two wonderful daughters. My older one works for Blue Origin, and my younger one works for Boeing. Actually, so
That's great.
they're both in aerospace, and I always encourage them to just try because they're both computer engineers,
Hmm.
programming, code people, but I don't think they've fully figured out yet what they really want to do. And I show them it's okay, just have a good time at work, right? Experiment, go find it, and you can maybe. I love what you said about connecting the dots, looking backwards. What other advice do you have for folks like my kids who are still looking forward and doing their best, but they maybe haven't totally found their passion yet?
I think it's interesting. I think that we don't often really know how to identify, like, are we in a moment of joy? Like, we're so detached from our emotions, or we've been trained to be so detached from our emotions. I remember I've worked with many coaches over the years, and the coach that I currently am with now, her name's Sean Ken Hayashi. She's amazing. She has really gave me an aha moment not that long ago, where when we think of emotional intelligence, I was always thinking about looking at other people and being able to understand what they're feeling, and reading the room and kind of understand what's going on. But what I wasn't doing was tapping into my own emotions and understanding the feedback loop that I'm getting about what does anger mean? How do I identify if something's joyful? What does jealousy mean? What's a sad, and actually being able to feel my emotions and then kind of flow through them, and then actually, oh my gosh, like now I have so much more information. If I see something, the jealousy motion is really an idea of, well, that might be for me. Or if I'm sad, that means it's something I really value. Anger is a boundary. Joy, I think, means I'm aligned and I'm actually doing or on my pathway to find that thing that I'm passionate about. So it's like a signal system. And for so long, I was not tuned in. And I think your daughters or anyone listening, especially those young, if I go back to my younger self, I'd say, go figure this out. Because if I had been able to understand that, I think I could have maybe aligned myself sooner, or at least understood it sooner than now. But I also do believe, Patrick, that everything happens all in perfect time.
Yeah.
So,
So let's unpack that a little bit. You said something really interesting there that emotional
mm,
intelligence you thought originally was about the other people's emotions, but you realized that you didn't unpack it for yourself. What did it mean for you? That's interesting because one of the tenets of emotional intelligence, the first one is actually self-awareness, right? So self-awareness. So you're saying figuring out what those emotions mean for you. Now, how does that relate to when you are connecting with other people? Just educate me a little bit on that. It's really interesting.
sure. I mean, the biggest one, that I can think of is boundaries. Over time, I've not always had the greatest boundaries. And when, let's say, for example, I'm in the hallway and someone would grab me and they would want to ask me a question, I'd get frustrated and kind of annoyed, but I'm not really quite sure what's causing that. And what I learned was I don't like speaking in the hallway, and I have a
Mm,
boundary, and that person crossed that boundary. But guess what? I never told them that I don't like to talk in the hallway. So I can't really get upset with somebody if I've never told them that my preferred way to
mhm.
communicate, I need to teach them. So that's kind of an example of how it shows up with others. Now, like I'm super clear. I'm like, hey, let's go take this in my office. And some of these things I think I did maybe a little in the subconscious before, but now to be able to name it, and then, when you're in difficult situations, to be able to understand it even further has been a real gift.
Very much so. That's so like anyone listening to this podcast, that is a pearl of wisdom right there, right? Really understanding what it's doing to you, how you're reacting, understanding your triggers a little bit, and then
Hmm.
helping people understand how to connect with you better. So you being proactive, saying, "Hey, let's take this to the office versus the hallway."
Hmm.
That's really cool. Thank you so much for that pearl of wisdom there. So you've enjoyed working with your dad, right? I take it. What
Hmm.
were some challenges? What were there any challenges, or was it? I mean,
Of course. Think I'm approaching 23 years here. My dad did pass away. I think it's almost 4 years ago now.
mm,
And so, yeah, so there's been lots of things along the way. There's been struggles, like typical business struggles. There was a time where I remember American Crane really was cash crunched, and we had all this work, but we couldn't pay our vendors. And so that's kind of a typical learning moment, that I'm grateful for. It was awful in the moment. I remember having to call and talk to vendors and figure it out and find alternate ways. But the pressure of that has made me a better leader today, and, taught me obviously that key of cash is king. And, that does really kind of set you up to be able to do the business at hand. And then there's really big that have happened, such as the loss of my dad, and him passing away was such a big thing. And, years before that, I had talked with my father. We had an employee come to us in a meeting and say, hey, well, what are we going to do when you pass away or when you die, Advar? And my dad and I actually were caught like off guard because we really hadn't dealt with or talked about that. And there were so many complications in there. We're a family business. We're second generation. I have a sister. And so all of those things that needed to be put in place. Luckily, in that crisis of him passing away, what we did see was all of our work to solidify, what I call the founder's legacy and the amazing culture that he built and amplify it and grow it. Certainly has paid off. And we have continued to roll forward and are able to honor him and create a legacy with him that helps to guide us in what we're doing. The best part of business, Patrick, are the people, right? They're the most important part of every business, and they're also the most difficult. So I've certainly had challenges over the years with issues in different departments and having to rebuild different areas and all of those similar type of crises that you have to just, I think, work through to get experience and learn, um, and persevere.
yeah, I found that thinking that things like that happen for me
Mhm.
versus to me is helpful.
Love that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I
you
love
said you
that.
have a sister as well. Is your sister in the business too?
Yeah, so we own American Crane together, and she is in the business. She's a executive director of outreach and development, so she works on all of our outreach in the community. We do a lot of work in our community, through a program called Hoist Up Outreach, and then also she manages all of our developmental work, which is, we call development as buildings. We are exploding. We've hired, oh my gosh, I think over 50 people last year. So we need spaces. So she's renovating buildings, finding buildings, doing new spaces and manufacturing spaces. Because we are, in a really big growth phase, which is wonderful. So it's the joy to own the business together, joy to work together, and difficult. Like I don't have children, she does. What do we do with our third gen? We have to be, I always like to say only the dragons can take down the dragons. How do we make sure our relationship is healthy so that our
Yeah.
business is healthy? Because we can really affect the lives of, those
Yeah.
250 plus people who work for us. I take that stuff seriously.
Yeah. But by the way, what did you mean when you said only the dragons can take down the dragons? What does that mean?
It's my Game of Thrones reference, okay? The House of Dragons. What I mean by only the dragons, it's only us, the owners of the company. We are the biggest risk to our
Yes.
business. If our business could be solid and we solid backlog, all these pieces, but if we can't get along, we can really cause some
Yes.
major problems. And so it's kind of ours. I put the responsibility on us. It is ours to screw up. And with
Yes.
that, it is ours to make successful. And I think by keeping it in that mindset, and also I like to stay in a stewardship mindset, which goes along with, like, I think your theme of journey. It's about the journey, not the destination. And I like to view this as the journey of stewarding this to our third gen. I think that's a healthy place and a healthy mindset to be for owning and also being able to work in the business in my role.
I think you've been very blessed to be able to work with your dad all these years and with your sister. I think it's a wonderful thing as long as you and your sister have a healthy working relationship and have put some boundaries, to use your own
Yeah.
word, in place so that you guys continue to nurture the love for family and business, right? Because I've worked with quite a few brother pairs or sister pairs, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's tough. That's all I can say. Sounds like you guys have figured it out.
It's work and we work at it. And I think that's why it's successful. We take it, like I said, we take our that seriously and do a lot of work on things like family council and governance and all of that kind of pieces that are important to keep that successful.
So tell me about this always lift, never quit. It is such a vivid mantra. It's sticking with me. What does it mean to you personally, and how did this come about?
So the always lift, never quit ties back to a little tiny piece of paper that I found in my desk after, I moved into my father's office and I pulled open a drawer and I was going through his things and there's a little tiny piece of paper that said always lift. It's in his handwriting, very distinct handwriting. And, as we were working to kind of evolve the business and who we are. We've always talked about grit matters and how we're a very gritty company. And I don't mean that in a hustle way, which I think people often misunderstand. Because I'm big into us living our best lives, enjoying not overworking. I think we actually can do a lot by doing less. Another nugget we could go into, but the idea around always lift, never quit is this idea that we have grit, we persevere, we find ways around obstacles, and we are able to do the tough work for our customers. But then so that's never quit. But the always lift
Yeah.
is we're always doing this in a way that is lifting others around us in a collaborative way, in a teamwork way, and paying attention to how we are treating our customers, how we are treating our employees, how we are working to not approach burnout. And some of the we do tough jobs, tough installations. Sometimes we have difficult schedules, difficult, each machine is basically unique and has its own unique set of. So anyway, it's a very good mantra on who we are as a company, who we are as people, who my dad was. And so we actually have a mural on the side of our building that we just installed last year. All of our employees got to paint it. Was done on this really cool paint by number sort of squares that you put on a table. And then we over the year painted it and then we had it all installed on one of our exterior walls and it has always lift never quit on it. And I just think it's a good reminder of who we are, where we're going, what our values are, and staying true to them. So
So
I think
always
it's a good
lift,
life
lift,
mantra.
always lift is very uplifting, lifting people up, right?
Mhm.
Lifting up, and then never quit. More about grit. I hear you
Mhm.
loud and clear. It's not about the hustle part. It's about maybe when you meet things which are difficult, having the grit to kind of punch through. Actually, right?
Yes, not
Yeah.
being scared of the challenges in front of you. Those are often the opportunities and the great
Yes.
learning moments and not giving up, looking for the alternate way around, or being I could think of learning something new. You don't learn it right away. I could go right to like the probably typical ones, golf, right? It's like not like you can go out and hit a golf ball and be great right away. If you're going to learn how to golf, you need to have grit to keep going and going and going. And you still may not ever get better. You're going to get somewhat better. So I think it's kind of this idea of just not giving up and being willing to keep going and keep trying and get up one more time.
Yeah. Also congratulations. You've been recognized as a top 50 women leader in Philly, and you're active with, women in manufacturing and women in nuclear. I noticed that you also talk about STEM. And usually when I think of STEM, I got two daughters in STEM, right? Usually when I think of STEM, science, technology, engineering and math, I think of tech. However, you're in manufacturing. So I was thinking that, in manufacturing, how does it apply? Is it like the science of materials and chemistry, the tech as in like CAD, CAM, and E, of course, engineering and math, about tolerances, SPCs, yield capabilities and supply chain modeling. Am I thinking about it correctly? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, all of those things I think would go into the STEM space. I mean, we are an orchestra of people trying to put together the song of what we're making, and there are engineers who are, again, solving complex material handling problems, sometimes unique applications that haven't been done before. We have on the, manufacturing floor, we're using math all the time. There's drawings. How do you make things? What are the measurements? I mean, there's so much going on there. I think technology, I think any company, I think we're all tech companies in a way. Like we have to look and figure out how we're going to take new technology and integrate it into our businesses. That's one thing that as the CEO I take seriously is to, and I also enjoy being a bit of a futurist, like how are we going to play around with things like AI? And then when do
Yes.
we have the ROI to pull it in? What kind of new technology do we need on our shop floor? When is the right time for things like robotics or even just advanced machinery? There's so many interesting tools and different pieces. So yes, I mean, I think our business in general is a STEM related business. And then you have things where you're thinking of just the analytics that we're doing, as a leader in the math and the financials and pieces like that.
So what are you doing with AI? I'm curious. What are you brought in AI? That's such a hot topic these days.
It is. We have a policy and we encourage the use of it, obviously without putting in confidential info. But I've been using it for all kinds of communication pieces. We've been Different departments have been trying it out for different like content creation and marketing. I think our legal department has been investigating it. So we're encouraging like small exploration, even just playing around with it. I think it's such a thing that's going to slap you in the face if you don't at least understand how it works. And then being cautious at the same time. We're not jumping into our own AI internally just yet or any of those. But I do feel that we will be looking for and leaning in on some use cases as we explore 2026 to say, hey, where can we integrate this in? Is there something we can do with specifications? Is there something we can do with high level contract track reviews? Kind of that what I've heard before, figuring out some ways to get more efficient and to see what's out there because I do believe that there's going to be applications. I think as things get, it gets smarter and smarter and moves up from like an MBA with no job experience to more and more and I do think there's going to be a lot of
Yeah.
opportunities out there for
I've
sure.
encouraged all my friends to play,
Hmm.
to me, it's like crawl, walk, run. I
Yes.
still remember, a few years ago when I got off the plane in Singapore, going home, that was when OpenAI announced that the beta program for ChatGPT. Between the time my phone came back on and I had signed up, between the time the plane taxied to the gate, I was already playing with it. And then when I got home in Singapore, I told my team in the US, hey, I want you guys to figure out what to do with this thing. And since that time, we've been playing with it because I think the best way to work with AI, some people are still afraid of it. The best way is to replace your fear with curiosity and then just go play with it. You got to start
Love it.
somewhere.
That's a great thing for life, right? Curiosity is how we find our passion, being willing to explore and learn new things and try things out. And I agree. I think it's absolutely a necessity, especially for us leaders to stay curious and keep
Yeah.
exploring these new technologies as they arise.
So you've connected your passion with your career at this company, your father's company, and what is your dream moving forward for yourself and for the company?
My dream moving forward. So I think what I really, I mean, it kind of comes back to this curiosity. A dream for me is to be able to create a life where I can pursue my curiosities without burnout, and have the ability to do that. I do believe we only get one beautiful life. And I want to live that best life. I actually have a children's book coming out in March, a republishing of a book my uncle wrote back in the 80s, and it's about a young boy named Sprout, and he gets a blank book from his parents, and it has his name in the front, and they say go out in the world and write the story of your life. So I want to write a good story. And then also for American Crane, being growth not for growth's sake, but to continue to be leaders in our industry and rising to the opportunities that are in front of us, making it or I would say continuing to keep it as a truly great place to work. I really want it to be this, and I feel it is, and I want to maintain this atmosphere where awesome people can be awesome. Making things is really about making people and just kind of keeping this great space. And I think what will happen is the growth will come with that, aligning, as you said, joy and passion with success. I think we can create places where we can have that for our people too. And then they are the ones stewarding our reputation and our customer relationships. And it just can be a real amplifier effect. So those are some of the things that I think about.
That's awesome. I gotta I'm going to get that book when it comes out. So when it comes out, let me know. The title is going to be Sprout.
It's The Book of Sprout by Richard Gleason and co-authored by myself, Karen Norheim.
So, final question. This is a question I ask all my guests. This podcast is for CEOs to help us all have a more joyful and successful life. So, what advice would you like to leave with our audience to help them have a more joyful and successful life?
And I think the thing I have to put out there is that something that I've been doing the last several years, which is my advice, is to CEO your health, which is all in the pursuit of joy and happiness, right? If you are not healthy, you can't be your best self. At 43, I found out I had calcification in my heart, and here I was like on my way to a heart attack, and I'm like, this isn't doing anybody good. It's not doing me any good, my family, or the people that work for me. So I spent the several years kind of making a turnaround, lost over 80 some pounds, got myself healthy.
Wow.
It's a journey. It's a journey.
Congratulations,
And
Karen. Wow.
yes, thank you. With a lot of help in there. But the
Mhm.
reason I think I was successful is I gave myself permission to put at the top of my priority list my health. Why can't I allow that to be also for
Yes.
myself? And I think Patrick speaks a lot to what you're talking about. And again, this idea of we don't have to be successful. We don't have to have this badge of exhaustion or be so busy. That isn't success. Success
Mhm.
is, aligning our passions so that actually when we're doing work, we don't even know that we're doing work. We don't even feel like we're doing work because we have aligned ourselves in such a way um, that it just kind of flows. So that would be my big thing that I would recommend.
Karen, thank you so much. That was amazing.
It
Melissa, back to
was.
you.
Yeah, so many nuggets in there. I can't wait to go back and re-listen to that one, Karen. So thank you for being here today and sharing your story. And until next time, go out there and enjoy this beautiful journey we're on. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.